Okay, so I figured out why people smoke pot, why people do drugs. I figured out because for the life of me, I couldn't figure out why the heck the rise in pot, why there is so much of the legalization, and then why pot smokers, the ones that I know, are so smart, like extremely smart. Sometimes too smart for their own good, and also very triggered and highly, I don't know, highly something. I literally highly and figuratively. But that's the when I figured out the kinetic energy with the brain and why it is I never got addicted to pot. I've smoked pot in my life, yeah. And I always felt extremely dumb when I smoked pot. It never really worked to my benefit. And I couldn't understand why is it that someone who can smoke pot every single day, well, they have so much brain activity going on, they have to go and calm it down somehow. And yeah, they're dealing with pain, yes, but that pain comes from the high kinetic energy in their brain. And so someone like a type O who, I have intelligence, but I never got the cerebral benefit. I never felt like I was smart on pot. I always thought I was dumb. Well, it took away my intelligence. But when someone has so much intelligence in their brain and they do pot, they still have the intelligence I would have had if I was sober. And so when someone is so highly intelligent with so much kinetic activity going on up there and they smoke pot, they're able to function. Like, I couldn't believe how many functioning pot smokers there are in this world. And then it had to do with, yeah, the drug culture of the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. And then I looked up the prevalent blood types, of which ones are self-ascribed, addicts, like opium addicts. And I'm like, oh, wow, the blood type A and B. Well, that would make sense. That would make so much sense. Which is why I see people get mad at me when I'm bagging on their pot, literally and figuratively, because they have so much stuff going on up here that pot is the only thing that can kind of give them that sense of calm and peace. But what happens is it'll work against them as well because it's taking away intelligence and it's causing their brain to atrophy. When the brain isn't allowed that much activity and it's not being supported by the food supply and you're not releasing some of those T cells and B cells that are causing the overactivity, then it's gonna cannibalize you. And so the only way pot smokers can feel like they have some sense of normalcy is if they smoke the pot. Okay? Because I know, my husband smoked pot before, but he's not like addicted. Okay? I mean, if I smoked pot, it would be something that would be just a very once in a while thing, if that. But I couldn't function every day smoking pot. But some people can. Why? Because they're so intelligent that even them smoking pot would still give them the ability to run their daily functions and still write amazing papers and theses and do whatever. But then that, again, works against them. And that's why dementia is projected in the future by the amount of type A and type B and all the pot smokers. Because I'm watching, like, my newsfeed, and they're talking about, them legalize or tapping into the billion-dollar industry of pot over here in New York. In California, huge amount of pot smokers. And also, I read someone's Facebook page who I used to know in the prepaid legal world, and out there in Humboldt, Eureka, California, extremely intelligent person, but they are addicted to pot. And the reason why, because they're so fucking smart. That's the only way they can calm down their brain from working so much. That's why they're able to sleep when they're on pot, because their brain is working at such an accelerated, like a supercomputer. And then why you see the geniuses like Albert Einstein and anyone that's in the type A and B in the sciences field, they have so much overactivity, then they get the MS. Or they have to turn to some kind of psychedelics to then, find a way to find some kind of relief or tap into more stuff that they want to tap into. I don't know. But so now you kind of see why the reasoning behind the pot smokers. And then you look at the blood types and you look at the amount of kinetic activity that's going on in their brain, because viruses and the biomarkers in the T cells, in the blood types, tells you what is being energized on a continuous basis. And then that's the torture of humanity, is when their brain's working so much overtime that they can't even rest. The racing thoughts. I mean, I would love the cannabis industry and the medical system do a study on how many pot smokers have a blood type A and B, not just the opium addicts, because there are people who are opium addicts are also under that extreme amount of kinetic activity in the brain because they want to calm down stuff, or I haven't done any kind of like interviews with opium addicts and figure out why they do it. But you understand that it's the mental capacity, the extreme amounts of energy that's being developed on a daily basis, of which is why people turn to drugs. Because I never derived any benefit. I actually felt stupider on pot, and I couldn't figure out, how does this person who smokes it every single day can still get up and go to work, can still write amazing papers, can still function in daily life? And the reason why is because their brain is so overactive that they're under the influence is like me being sober. And that is the craziest freaking notion. And so, yeah, my critics are extremely intelligent. Fuck yeah, they are. Of course they are. They're not stupid. They're just trying to calm down the demons in their brain. They're trying to find a way to find some kind of equilibrium so they can freaking rest. That's the torture people are under. That's crazy. And so, yeah, the system has apologized, but you know that the 1960s, the 1940s and 50s, they figured out how to use drugs. The whole MK Ultra and the LSD world, in the opium world, and they even did that back in the antiquity, when the Silk Road was going on, and the drug exchange, the opium dens, trying to figure out how to come to terms with their overactivity in their brain. And then you get the monsters in our society from the overactivity. I mean, like the Charles Manson. That's why some of the 1960s, the 1970s, there was a lot of serial killers, because the amount of kinetic activities going on in the brain, they were so highly intelligent that it made them deadly on some level. Because the amount of natural killer T cells that were taking over themselves, and they were out there to destroy, not build up, but destroy. So then the autism, they figure out the autism and the MS and the brain cancers. And then you realize what's going on here, okay? And that's why it's so important to understand why the Jilly Juice is so amazing, when you figure out that you're going to have to deal with the pain of the headaches when you're trying to release those little demons that have been doing a number on your brain. Yes, it's giving you so much intelligence, but it's working against you at some point when you finally start suffering from the neurological conditions. And so it's, oh my God. That's just, because, I've been part of different groups where half people were drug addicted, the other half were not. And why is it that some people are addicted to drugs and others aren't? And it's not because they're any dumber or any smarter. They just have more energy in certain areas of the body. And then you realize the cancers. The porn industry, you get so much kinetic activity in the lower regions of the body that they get testicular cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer. Then all the different viruses that are associated with that kinetic activity, and you see all the STDs. And those STDs lead to then certain cancers. That's still high viral energy in that area that is causing the amount of taking away, the negating of the energy that then has to then go and compensate. And then that's where the cancer and all the different diseases that happen from the deficits, from that amount of activity, from the constant abuse. And so when people are born with those kind of predispositions, and then it gets passed down in genetic lines, that's why kids get autism. Because of not only the parents' predispositions of their type A and B blood, but then whatever they've done to try to assuage that energy, to try to calm it down, has also caused more of the different mutagenesis that's going on in the brain development. And so the system has apologized, but we are dealing with the backlash of what happened in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And that's why they're projecting vast amounts of dementia, vast amounts of Alzheimer's in the future, if not already, by those who have been undergoing so much of energetic responses within their neurological system, and definitely the brain. And so those of you who are type A and B, yeah, you're going to be suffering some headaches trying to level up to this environment, like serious headaches. I had a lot of headaches during the process of not only the J juice, but then dealing with the COVID and all the different variants. But I can't imagine what someone who is type A and B, when they finally realize that their brain has to then finally level up to their body and their community, how much of the headaches are going to have to undergo. And so so if you're type A and B, that's what's in your future with not only the JJ meta mentality, but then also leveling up to these viruses. And are you prepared to deal with the massive migraines, the massive headaches? And some people know that they have those predispositions because their moms are dealing with the migraines. Triggers from the hormones, from the environment, from the viruses. And the destruction of humans is coming from when you're trying to stop the energy instead of feeding it. You have to feed that kind of energy. And you need the brain food. Those are type A and B are missing the vast amounts of complete proteins, like the meat, the milk, the meat, the soy. But they hear everybody's all afraid of soy. Oh, it's like has all this excessive estrogen, whatever. Believe me, those that are type A and B need the complete proteins. The type O already have the high protein diet. My husband's a type O. I'm a type O. I can rip into relatively raw meat and not have an issue. Okay? Because I am feeding my brain. When I was having those major headaches during the COVID in the beginning, I was eating steak, almost raw. And then when I dealt with the terraforming on my back with that last variant, I was eating chicken. I needed that protein. So type A and B, even though your blood type says you eat more of a pescatarian, of a vegetarian, no, honey, you won't survive just eating a pescatarian, vegetarian diet. You will not survive this aggressive environment because it is so highly dynamic that you need every single complete protein available to you. And if people don't get those nutrients, then they turn to drugs to try to calm down the energy. Because you see in California, all the organic people, and that's a lot of brain activity in California and New York. That's where all the innovation came from, Silicon Valley. I came from a type A and B household. I think 3 out of 4 of us living together were all type A and B, and I was the only one that was type O. And I didn't want to take to that programming because it was aggressive, very psychologically aggressive. That's why women are super, super smart who are type A and B, and they are psychologically manipulated. That's why criminals are so smart, because they're using their brain to figure out how to make money. If they can't make it in the mainstream world, then they turn to criminal activity. And that's just as smart as someone who is a CEO of a legit company. And then you wonder why some people turn to the drug industry, because yes, they have so much crap going on up here. They have to find a way to find some kind of relief. I get it now. I freaking get it. And I'm sorry you have to deal with that. I am so sorry you have to deal with that. If I understood that many years ago, but even if I did understand that, what could I have done? Nothing. You have to walk away from those that are suffering, because their suffering will cannibalize you. They have to deal with their own suffering and figure out how to purge those little freaking beasts, those little demons that are doing so much crap to their brain, causing them to go and take on the drug industry, which then causes more issues because you're not resolving the issues. You're just anesthetizing them, but they multiply and they replicate in the background, and they cause even more issues, and they break down the body. Wow. And I figured out, why we have so much hypersexuality, because of all the LSD and the allowance, the constant flow of oxytocin, the constant need, the addiction to oxytocin, the pleasure centers. And so now you see why the porn industry is so huge, because of all the LSD and causing the oxytocin, the addiction to the pleasure. And then every other types of maladies that are out there. And so while yes, the 1960s, the 1950s, 1970s gave us so much innovation, gave us the tech industry, gave us the advancements of Facebook, gave us the advancements of Bill Gates, but they also ruined future generations who are now dealing with an overactive brain activity, which then may go to the other side of being so smart to now being completely like not remembering how to even wipe your own butt or how to feed yourself or how to protect yourself. That's the other side of it that people don't realize when they have kids that have autism. And so know your blood type. So now you understand why your kid's suffering, why you're suffering, why people around you are suffering. It's those little biomarkers, the programming, your genetic programming that manifests in the blood types. And why there's so much type O blood out there, because that is the most prevalent, strong prototypes that can take on the nurture of the blood type A and B, and also the intelligence from your internet. So you don't have to suffer through all of that neural activity that the blood types A and B do, which is why they then get more addicted to the drugs and the blood type O's. So now you understand why you are the way you are. Now you understand what runs you. And you can still keep the intelligence, even though you're purging out those biomarkers, but you can still keep your intelligence. And you can gain even more intelligence and be more balanced in the body and the mind and the spirit. But this is like a major, and this is, I'm telling you, every single revelation I've had as far as making the connections has everything to do with the viruses that I deal with. And I don't try to stop the virus energy. I don't try to stop the pain. I keep feeding it food. Even if I have to go and eat 2 days in a row of McDonald's to make up for the proteins that are being cannibalized because of the amount of terraform that's going on. But that intelligence, that back pain, had aggressive intelligence. Then it gave me another connection to the bigger picture. And so while I have bagged on the Potsmokers, I know you're suffering from so much neural activity. But you don't have to suffer. But you're going to have to deal with a certain amount of suffering to get yourself leveled up in the body, so that way you're not being cannibalized by the brain activity that's going on. And that's why Albert Einstein was so smart. That's why the Stephen Hawking type, even with all the theories that may not be really appropriate, because there's nothing singular in the society. Everything is just, right? It didn't come from a big bang. There's so many big bangs. But then you can see why there are the geniuses in our society, and why you see people who are bioengineered to be looking perfect. Okay? And you see what biotech can do. They can develop and create the most perfect specimens, but they do have their own suffering at some point when all the conditions are right. So you don't want to revere anyone because you know what biotech can do for people as far as make them look a certain way temporarily. And then when the body starts breaking down, the brain starts breaking down, then they turn to specific drugs and things, and then that destroys them, like Heath Ledger. He could have walked away, but he kept trying to stay in the game. He wanted to keep his fans and fame and everyone, appeased. And then what happens is the fans, the fanatics, and all the people who are worshiping them cannibalize them. That's why be very careful with your Facebook audience. You don't want to get too powerful, because then you'll be cannibalized by the people that follow you. Okay? So understand this. And I get this. I get this on such a level that it galls me on what this world is made up of and what caused us to be where we are today. And I hope that, I know I've offended a lot of people, especially who smoke pot. But now you understand why you smoke pot. Now you understand why it is that people who don't smoke pot, why we don't need to. Because we were not plagued with that kind of neural activity that you've been plagued with. But now you know you don't have to suffer. You'll suffer for a certain amount of time to level up. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel for you, if you're willing to face it. If you're not, then okay, then you can't get mad at me or anyone else. Because now you know why it is you are addicted to pot. Now you know why it is that you are drug addicted. Because you're so fucking smart. All right, bye.